system today. We are actually at another meeting and had to kind of pull out of it and do this. And just like last time I did one from my computer, it would not work. And so we're using two computers right now. And I have Alicia here with me that's kind of being my little helper. Also, just to let you know, if I seem off today, I've got a shoulder issue going on, so I'm kind of in a lot of pain. So if I seem distracted, that's what's causing it. So just please bear with me. We want to make sure that we get your questions answered as best as we can. I'm going to go ahead and hit the record button. Oh, did you do that already? Okay, it's already been done. All right. So
I got a button on.
Dates on where we are with the RFA. We have a meeting tomorrow. No, I'm sorry, Thursday. The earliest we can meet again with IT is Thursday, and we're hoping that once we meet with them to kind of go through a few things, some questions they had about the build. I'll be able to. They'll be able to provide us with that updated timeline of when they'll have the EGAP application ready. And so, so we still don't have that updated timeline for you yet, but fingers crossed we'll have it to you by the end of the week. And we'll be able to let you know what the updated timeline is going to be. So for anybody who has not been able to attend any of the past meetings, what I am referring to is the timeline that is in the RFA. It is, let's see, let me scroll down and find it really quick. So it starts here, sorry, on page, let's see, that would be page 9. As you know, the RFA was released quite a bit later than was expected, about a month later than expected. And then also the EGAP build is taking longer than expected, partially because of the holidays, and partially just because of they're short-staffed, which, you know, was just things that we couldn't foresee occurring ahead of time. And so it's making the timeline take longer than normal. So as many of you might know, today was supposed to be, we had hoped that yesterday would have been the opening of the EGAP application so you could start working on those, but obviously that has to be rescheduled. And then today's meeting was supposed to be a virtual EGAP application training. And again, we will reschedule that for a future date, so that we can get you trained on that. But we're just waiting to hear back from IT for them to kind of let us know how far in advance or how much longer it's going to take them to get that build done. So we will update you as soon as we're able to. We'll get that out. It'll be put on the website. It'll go out in the emails that go out for the RFA and for the current subgrantees that we have with 21st Century. So we will get that information out as soon as possible. Of course, that pushes everything else back also. We are going to continue to have the application office hours on the dates that are here on this screen. And so we won't have anything next week just because it's Christmas and then New Year's. We just figured that you guys will probably be on vacation and won't want to come and talk about RFAs, but you are welcome. If you have a question between now and then, we will still be in the office most of that time. And you're welcome to send emails with any questions that you may have, and we will try to answer those as fast as we can. I will be honest with you, I have not checked the email box in the last couple of days just because I've been at this other conference and there's just been a lot going on. So there may be some of you who have already submitted some questions via email that I haven't been able to respond to yet. And I apologize for that. It's just, there's only so many hours in the day. But you know, that's one of the things I plan to work on tonight in my hotel room while I'm at this out of town conference. So also just keep in mind that on top of 21st Century, I have other duties. Alicia has other duties. All of us have other duties in addition to this. And so we do appreciate your patience as we try to meet your needs as best as we can, but then also make sure that we're not falling behind in all of our other duties at the State Department. Okay, so let's go ahead, and if you have any questions, any other questions about the RFA, you're welcome to put them into the chat, and we'll start addressing those. Any questions? Just wait in the chat. While we're waiting on you to fill those questions in, I'm trying to, I had intended to print it before I left, but there were some really good questions asked late last week that I was going to go over with you guys just so that you would have the answers to those questions. So let me see if I can pull that up on my phone. I intended to do it earlier and got stuck in meeting. Okay, let's see if I can find it. Dang it. Sorry.
Okay, we have a question.
Okay. Okay, great questions. So the question is, are we to use the objectives that are on page 35, or do we create our own objectives or percentages? Okay, so I'm going to scroll down to 35 of the RFA. Because that's a yes and no answer, and I've got to see exactly which questions you're talking about. I'm gonna make this a little bit smaller just so I can see more of it. My screen is kind of tiny. Give me just a second, I'm almost to it. Okay. All right, so for these right here, so let me go up and give you a little bit of a background information to these. So there are 6 goals. There are 6 performance measures. I'm sorry, there are 6, there are 6 performance measures based on the focus areas of this RFA that you have to create objectives for, okay? And so this is the 6. So you've got students regularly participating in the program will meet or exceed state and local academic achievement standards in ELA, reading, and math. Students regularly participating in the program will show improvement in school attendance and performance. Students regularly participating will show improvement in behavior during the school day by having reduced disciplinary referrals. Students regularly participating will demonstrate holistic health and wellness by exhibiting positive self-awareness, social awareness, relationship skills, decision-making skills, and self-management. Students regularly participating will demonstrate civic responsibility and strengthen their community through service learning projects. And then finally, students regularly participating will be afforded opportunities for increased parent and family engagement. So if you scroll down to the questions that you're talking about for number 35, these are objectives that we've gone ahead and written for you and that we do want you to use. Now, you can tweak, so you would want to keep the percentages the same, but you could do some tweaking if you're a summer program only. So, for example, the first performance goal is students regularly participating will meet or exceed state and local academic achievement standards in ELA, reading, and math. So your first objective would be 50% of regular program participants will increase their math grade by half a letter grade or 5 percentage points from the first marking period to the last marking period of each academic year. Now, if you are running a summer only program, then of course, you might not look at the first and last marking period of each year, but you would want to, you wouldn't necessarily do any kind of testing or anything during that summer program. You should be able to look at the performance on a test from before the summer program and compare it to after the summer program. So you could look at from the prior year to the current year if that's what meets your needs best. The main goal is that we want to see improvement in the students. And that brings to mind one of the questions that came up from that email I was talking about. The question was asked, what do we do? How do we meet these goals if we have I think it was a K-3 program that isn't grades based, but they do, there's performance measures based, I guess, and that's how they do their grading. So they don't have they don't give like an 85B on the report card. I guess they say what measures have been met by the student. And so my answer to that was, you don't have to use report card grades. It could be any kind of formative testing, any kind of testing that you regularly do with your students, and you want to look at that does have some data attached to it, that there is some sort of scoring that has been met, and you want to show an improvement in scoring from one year to the next or from one period of time to the next, just depending on what makes the most sense for your grant. So yes, this is slightly flexible, but the general goals need to be the same. The objectives need to be the same, that you're seeing an increase in your participants for their ELA, for their math performance, and that sort of thing. So, if you can justify a reason for changing the objective, that's fine. You can add objectives to this, but we would like to see everybody use something similar to this, at least that's just given to you for the first 3 performance goals. For the next 3 performance goals, which have to do with holistic health, service learning, and parent-family engagement, you can create your own objectives, okay? One reason to keep these all the same is so that when we are looking at our program as a state, we know we're looking at similar data statewide. And so we can look at your objectives and look at the data you report for those objectives, and we can see how we're doing as a state for 21st century all together. So if all of you created totally different objectives that had nothing to do with each other, we wouldn't be able to do that. So that's one of the reasons for giving you these specific ones and asking everybody to do the same thing. So if you can make it work to do, to keep it like this, please do so. If you need to tweak it a little bit for your program, and it does make sense to do so, then, just explain that in your narrative as to why you kind of, changed it slightly for your side. Okay?
The next question is, I think Erica answered it regarding to where to find the RFA, but we have another question.
Okay. All right. For the intent to apply, do we need to have the school district stakeholders on board to submit that? We work with several schools already, but haven't yet talked to them officially about this potential grant. Where do we get the poverty rates before we can access the EGAP system? Okay, so let's tackle these one at a time. Yes, you do have to have a relationship established with the school board before, or with the LEA or the school district before you submit an application. This is a very, very important part of the application. And the reason for that is, I'm assuming you are not, I'm assuming you're a CBO. I'm sorry. Oh, wait. Oh, intimate. I'm sorry. I didn't misread that. Thank you, Alicia. That's why she's here. For the intent to apply. No, you can go ahead and do the intent to apply now. And it's just, you have to have them on board before you submit your application, before the due date. Because they are part of that application process. You have to submit documents where people from the from the school system have said, yes, sorry, we're going to work in partnership with this person to have a 21st century program. But to do the intent to apply, no, you can go ahead and put that in before that time. I'm sorry. Okay, and then poverty rates. Anybody can access EGAP. A lot of it is public information. And so if you go to the EGAP system, the link to it is in the RFA. And you go to, actually, I can kind of show you. So I know I'm sharing my screen, but there's no telling what's going to come up when I click on this other thing. So hold on. It's my hotel from last night. All right. So now y'all know where I'm staying. All right. So let me go to EGAP. Oh, I think I have to share my screen. Hold on. Let me stop sharing. Give me just 1 second to figure this out here. How best to do this. All right. So I'm going to share. Let me try to just share my entire screen. Okay. All right. So now I'm going to go back to, not that. Okay. This is the EGAP. Okay. I'm not going to log in to EGAP. Anybody can go to EGAP. It's this alabama.egrantsmanagement.com website. Okay. This is what it looks like for everybody when they first go. I'm not going to log in, but I can go to a system and look at their information. So I'm going to search. Oops. Sorry. I'm going to go to the search button here and I'm going to hit organizations. And I'm just going to randomly pick one. I think I should do Dothan. We'll do Dothan. All right. I'm going to type in Dothan and hit enter. It pulls up Dothan City. Sometimes you'll see that there might be like a city and a county that has the same name. So you just pick on which one you're interested in. Now, from this point, you don't click on Dothan City. You can go over here and click on FA. That stands for funding applications. So if you click on that, it pulls up their current funding applications. And so you're going to go to consolidated. That shows this is the consolidated application, shows their Title I funding, their Title II, and that sort of thing. So when you click on consolidated, you can go down to Title I and click on building eligibility. And it pulls up the public low income student percentage in this column here. So you would find the school that you're planning on serving. Let's say you're going to serve Highlands Elementary School. Their poverty percentage is 39.11%. Okay. Another way you could get this information is just reach out to the school system and ask them for it. They should be able to provide it to you. But this is how you get to this. And so you can actually, this is all public information. You can look and see what kind of funding they get and that sort of thing. But you can see any of the schools that fall within, say, the Dothan City school system and see what their poverty level, this year's poverty level is. Okay. All right. Let me go back to the RFA. Okay. All right. What other questions? All right. If we're applying to an LEA with multiple principals, can they all sign one Form 4 along with the superintendent, or should each site have a separate Form 4 signed by the superintendent and principal? Okay. So let's talk about these forms. I'm going to scroll down to the forms and we'll go down to Form 4. By the way, someone did point out to me that in the first form, we had the wrong year. And so the forms that have been, I fixed it here, but in the RFA that's on the website, I think it still says 2024. But the forms that we have now taken all of the forms that you guys need and put it where you can access it on the website. We also sent them out and I did fix it in that form. But for these forms, whether it's Form 1, 2, 3, or 4, any of the forms, you will submit a form for each site that you're going to have, okay? So if you go down to Form 4, Form 2, Form 3, Form 4, okay, the Superintendent and Principal Support Certification. So you would have, for this one, let me scroll down to the bottom. Now, I will say this. Probably what confused you is the fact that there are several places here where a principal can sign. Sometimes one site can serve more than one school. Okay. Um, huh? Well, we have some sites that actually, we have some sites, and I don't know if they do it because the schools, because it's very rare, but sometimes, okay, so let me break it down. So you've got the sub-grantee, right? That is the organization that's going to be over the grant. So it could be an LEA, it could be a CBO or an FBO. And they can have multiple sites. For each site, they're going to fill out the information based on that site. So it's going to be the students that they are being served with that site. In some cases, a site will have more than one school. It could be that you've got an elementary school and a middle school that are right next to each other. And so both of those schools fall under the same grant or they're considered the same site. They may have it in one building, but they got kids from both schools going to that, that site. I think that could be the case. Other cases where we've seen some people do it that I've been told is if maybe the programs were so small that they needed to combine a couple of schools together to make it and be enough students to serve to justify to give them enough for them to meet the minimum required grant amount. Um, so that would be a case too. Now, I personally prefer for each site to be its own site. I think it gets kind of messy when you have more than one school served by site. I think it's a lot easier if it's just one school per site, but there are some exceptions to that can occur, every now and then. But that's the reason why there's more than one principal listed here. But if it's just the one school, then you would just have the one principal sign it. Okay. All right. Next question. Can you explain the difference between external organizations and community partners, or are they the same? Okay. So an external organization is an organization that is often partners with a 21st century program. They have experience partnering with after school programs. So it could be something like a Boys and Girls Club or a YMCA or something like that, where that kind of partnership happens often and they submit an application together often. We are working on building our external organization list so that we can kind of provide you some recommended external organizations. But, we don't have a huge list yet, and it's something that we just started and we're working on. Now, a community partner is any organization or business or school in the area that you're serving, in that community that wants to partner with you and provide some sort of services to your students. Typically, it would be like a volunteer basis. It could be paid potentially, but a lot of times it would be like a partnership that would be on the volunteer basis. So, for example, let's say you've got middle school kids and you want to do activities about how to do a budget or how to how to balance a checkbook or write checks or calculate or figure tax, that sort of thing. You could have a bank be a community partner, and they might send one of their executives or someone that's kind of, maybe not a teller, but somebody who is higher up in the bank to come and speak to your students one day about banking and about how to balance a checkbook and that sort of thing. And they come and do it for free. And the reason why they do is um, to to give those kids, it's really good for all parties involved. The kids get that information. It makes a better consumer in the future. Those kids recognize that bank when they grow up and it's time for them to, open their first bank account. And so that would be a community partner. You might have some grocery stores or the Walmart or Chick-fil-A or something like that has partnered with you to provide some after school snacks sometimes. Or snacks during summer programs, or they provide some sort of little goodies for the kids for free. That would be a community partner. So really, it could be a church. It could be the church that's sending out, good male role models to come and do some sort of sports activity and teach kids about teamwork and that sort of thing. That could be a community partner. So really, it's just anybody from the community that wants to partner with your 21st century to provide some sort of services that will benefit those students and benefit the community as a whole. Okay. All right, so while we're waiting on the next question to come up, I thought of another question when I saw this form. Okay, so this is, form, I just want to point this out. Form 3 is a sample MOU. And so let me talk to you about that a little bit. I'm not going to lie, I stole this document from another state. And so this is just a sample. You can tweak this as needed. I do want to go ahead and let you know that we are in the process of working on providing a better template for you for the MOU, because there are some federal rules and regulations that I was recently reminded at like last week at another out-of-state conference I went to that really do need to be included in your MOUs. It's not something that we've required in the past, but it's really supposed to be part of any federal grant. And so the question that came to me was, do I have to use this template, or can I use the MOU template that is used by my LEA, my school district? And because it has all those federal rules and those federal required, it's really passages that have to be part of the contract. And I said, yes, please feel free to use what your LEA has. That is perfectly fine. For now, this form is fine. If you go ahead and have this form filled out or do something similar to this and submit it as part of your MOU, that's fine. Once we provide you with a better template, anything that you do from that point forward, we would prefer for you to use the better template. We don't want this to hinder you in getting your MOUs signed, but just I do want to put out there that there is going to be something better coming sometime soon. I don't want you to wait for that necessarily, but I just want to make you informed that that is coming. The only thing that is a really important thing is you've got to have an amount in here. You need to have what the duties of the different parties are. What is it that they're going to provide? The person who you're contracting with, what are their expectations? What are your expectations? And then how much are you paying them? Are you paying them per hour? Are you paying them one lump sum? If you are paying them per hour, then how many hours are they going to come work? And what is the maximum amount that you're going to pay in that contract? All of that needs to be laid out in the MOU. It does not, that has something that wasn't, I don't think it was requested in the previous RFA or MOUs. That's a lot of letters. And it causes problems for us all the time when we go and review a MOU. We don't know how much you're paying these people. So it really does cause a problem. So we want to make sure that that part is definitely in there. But I just wanted to point that out for you right now, that you can use your own template. You can use your own MOU as long as it definitely has like their information, your information, and it has how much you're paying them, whether you're paying them a lump sum or per hour. If you're paying them by the hour, how many hours are they expected to work? What is the maximum amount of the grant going to be? Of the contract going to be? That all needs to be included in that MOU. Okay. Trying to think of other questions that came up. All right, any other questions while I'm trying to remember other things that have come up from the week? Okay, I found that here. Okay, here we go. Can I go over Form 9? Sure. Let's go down.
No, you did. I'm sorry. Yeah, you did.
Okay. Okay, Form 9. Okay, yes, this is a big one. Okay, so this is a new way of thinking that I know is going to be difficult probably for some people to think about, but it actually should help you in the long run. Okay. This is your multi-year program design and performance form. This is going to be a working document. Oh, sorry. This is a working document that you will need to turn in. And basically it is showing us how your objectives have been thought. Okay, so it shows us the strategies and activities that you're going to do to meet your objectives. It shows us the data sources you plan to collect and to show us how you're going to evaluate your program throughout the year. And it shows us how your budget is tied to those strategies and activities. Okay, so if you look, a lot of this has been filled in for you. And this may look different. Hold on, let me look and see if I fixed it. I did have to go in and fix this form. The one that was released with the RFA had a couple of the objectives together. I just did, for some reason, did not realize it. So the ones that were sent out to you guys are correct. The ones that were listed as the individual printable and editable documents are correct. Okay, so you've got your first performance goal here, right? And these are required. You can add more performance goals to your program if you want to, but you have to meet those 6 required performance goals. So the first one is that students regularly participating in the program will meet or exceed state or local academic achievement standards in mathematics and English language arts or reading. And then you've got your objectives. So my first objective is 50%. So you've got your target, 50% of regular program participants who will increase their math by half a letter grade or 5 percentage points from the first marking period to the last marking period of each academic year. This is next, you're going to put in the strategies and activities that you're going to do to meet those goals. Are you going to do a certain ELA or math curriculum? Are you going to try to incorporate math and reading into your other, this is where you're going to talk about what it is that you're going to do to meet these objectives. So what kind of activities are you going to have in your program that is going to make students increase their math grade by half a letter grade or their ELA grade by half a letter grade? Okay. So what is it you're going to do? What activities you're going to do with the kids? So this is where you're going to write those out. And this form is buildable. So when you click in here, you can type as much as you want to. You can just make that box as big as you need it to be to put all the things in there that you plan on doing with your students. Then you're going to look at those activities and you're going to tell me what is it, or you're going to look at that objective and those activities and tell me what data sources are you going to collect to make sure those activities are actually working. What formative assessments are you going to look at? Now think about, you don't necessarily have to do testing in your after-school program. It could be the formative assessments and the types of assessments that the school does on a regular basis. That's why it's really important for you to have that relationship with the school that you're working with so that you can get that data from them. So it could be STAR testing. I haven't been in the classroom in a while. What kind of, there's Renaissance learning. iReady, any of those type of things that you do with your students, that could be your data source that you're going to look at. And that's what you're going to collect from, throughout the year or, from one year to the next to determine if the kids are meeting, if these activities that you planned, the activity that you plan to meet that objective, is it working? Am I being loud? Sorry, there's a meeting right next door. Sorry.
No, you're fine.
Okay.
I'm excited. I'm trying to add to you.
Oh, you can say whatever you need to say.
Sorry.
Okay, so you've got your activities plan, you've got your evaluation plan based on those activities to see if those activities are working, and then you've got your budget. So what things do you need to buy? What people do you need to hire to make these activities, to implement these activities? So if you say you're going to implement some sort of math curriculum, you probably have to buy books. You probably have to buy workbooks. You probably have to buy worksheets. You might have to buy some online subscription to something. You probably need to hire a person who is math certified or English certified. They're a certified teacher. You know, what resources do you need to budget to put into your budget to make those activities happen? And so this shows how your budget ties to your activities, how the activities ties to your objectives, and how your objectives ties to your overall goals of your program. Okay.
It's excellent because personally, I would start with Form 9 before I even started getting into the meat of my grant.
Yeah.
To know exactly what I'm going to purchase, what type of personnel I want. And I think this is an excellent activity to do with your LEA. You may do some pre-stuff and then say, hey, what do you think? These are some things that I thought of. What additional things can you give me ideas on, or the school is already doing that we maybe can expand into the after school program?
Exactly. And really, and yes, it should start with that, but it also, the very first thing it should start with is your needs assessment. Look at the needs of the kids. Yes, we've told you have to have these specific objectives because that's what we as a state feel like every kid, their needs statewide, but you can add to these. This is not, you can add things to performance goal 1 or 2 or 3. You have to add things to 4, 5, and 6 because we don't provide those for you. But really tailor this to the needs of the students that you're going to be serving, because that's really what's going to make your program an actual, not just a place for kids to go in the afternoon, which is fantastic. Don't get me wrong. That's a fantastic goal of the program to give them a safe place to go. But imagine if that safe place to go also helped their academic achievement and made them want to come to school and all of that. So this is a big piece of this puzzle. And just keep in mind, if you have something in your budget and it's not on this form, it's not going to be approved. You've got to tie everything that you're buying to the activities that you're doing with the kids, or everything that you're paying for, all the services you're contracting. They should be able to be tied to the activities that you plan to do with the kids, the activities that are going to meet your performance goals. So see how everything should tie together. And so that's how that form should work. And we don't expect these to be perfect. This is the first year we've asked for this, but as long as we can see that you really have put effort into trying to think of activities that are going to meet those performance goals, you've really reached out to the schools and thought about what kind of data you need to collect to see if those activities are working, and that your budget is tied to those activities, then you're good. It doesn't have to have all the fancy language and all of that. And we understand that these are going to get better and better from year to year as you get used to doing this. But this is a document that your entire 21st century program is going to be based off of for the next 5 years. This is the document we're going to refer to. This is the document that your external evaluators are going to use, to help you plan your year. This is a key part of this new RFA. So thank you for asking that question. We are happy to, if you have any specific questions about data or anything like that, we're happy to help. Just let us know. Okay. Okay, one question. Okay, that's a long one. I'm going to read it in just a second, but another question that I had that came to me this week that I just want to read to you really fast. So there was a question that said, do we have to have a separate job description for the 21st Century Program Director if this role is acknowledged in the federal program coordinator's job description, who will also be serving as the program director? So hopefully this is okay, Alicia. I'm looking at this the first time she's seen my answer to this. But what I said was, if that's the case, so this is pertaining to LEAs that have to have a federal program. They have a federal programs coordinator, and in some of those LEAs, that federal programs coordinator also works as the program director for 21st Century. It's part of their pay. It's part of their job, their day-to-day job. If that's the case, and it says in their job description that that is part of their job, then you can just upload that job description. Okay, good. I'm being told yes, that's okay. Because that was my answer.
I don't know why she needs me, people. She's an expert.
I am not. I am learning as I go, but that's what made sense to me, so that's what we're going to do. So, yeah, the only way you would need to upload a separate job description for your federal programs director is if it's not part of somebody's job at the LEA already. Okay. So let's tackle this big long one. In regards to attendance, will the 75% requirement be 75% of the days or 75% of the time? The primary reason that this is critical question is the Literacy Act camps that will also be running on some of the same days. For instance, second semester literacy camps only run 36 days or 3 days a week for 12 weeks. During those weeks, the students would still be able to attend 21st Century 2 days a week for the full time, but for only part of the time each of the 3 days that camps meet. Roughly during those 12 weeks, they would be 21st Century 65% of the time, but 100% of the days. But our literacy camps do not run full time. Do they have the option of braiding funding in order to share children, with the children rotating from 21st Century teachers to literacy teachers and vice versa, with teachers being paid from either specific fund sources and the children on a rotation basis? If so, can you explain how that works? Okay, that's a fantastic question.
It is.
And I wish I had a graphic to show you right now to kind of help you with this. We're working on that. I know I keep saying we're working on stuff, but we really are. It's just, again, only so many hours in a day. All right, so the 75% requirement is for both. It's for both the number of kids you're serving and the number of hours. And before I say that, let me say that is for year 2. Okay, so let me just back up and just make sure I'm clear with everyone. First year of the grant, we know that some of you are getting your grant up and running. You may not have full participation. You may not, things may not go as you planned originally. It may just take you some more time. You don't have to meet a specific requirement as far as the number of days or hours in that first year. In year 2, though, by the end of year 2, we expect you to have at least 75% of the students. You're serving 75% of the students you said you're going to serve, at least 75% of the time you said you were going to serve them. Okay, so part of the grant is you have to put in the number of kids that you plan to serve and the number of hours you're going to serve those kids. So let's talk about the braiding of funds. It depends on how this is going to work. Probably the best thing, in order for you to make sure you get all your hours in and all your students in, is that when you have literacy camps, you also have activities going on for 21st Century kids that may not be going to those. They may not be the kids you're serving in that literacy camp. So, for example, I think it's 3rd grade math, maybe, or the literacy is, I think, oh gosh, I can't remember what it is. 3rd and 4th grade, maybe, for literacy. Anyway, I'm having the literacy. Do you remember what it is? Up to 3rd grade. Okay, so let's say you're in elementary school and you have a requirement to serve certain children up to 3rd grade who have some literacy deficiencies. Okay, you serve those kids with your literacy program, your literacy teachers, but K-3. Okay. Okay, so if you're K3, you don't have to serve. I don't think you're required to serve every child in the school. It's just the children who are struggling in literacy. They're making below a certain benchmark on their literacy tests, right? So you can offer a summer program to any child who wants to come during the summer, and be part of the 21st century program. You have some activities where all the kids are together and they're doing those 21st century enrichment activities. And then you have certain times of the day where your literacy camp kids go to one place and they get their specific literacy instruction. And then the other kids get maybe another kind of literacy instruction, but it's not necessarily at that same tiered level that you have to provide to those literacy camp kids. Or you could give them something totally different to do. So you could do literacy activities across the board. It's just you've got some kids that are going to that specific literacy teacher that has been paid for with those literacy grant funds, and they're meeting that literacy camp requirement, but yet you still during that time have a 21st century program going on at that same time with the other kids that are in the summer program. They could still be doing literacy, but they may not need that tiered instruction that those literacy camp kids need. They're just doing something else that's literacy based. Or they could be doing dance, or they could be doing whatever, something different. And then you bring them all back together to do some more enrichment, right? So this way, you are meeting the needs of every kid. You don't have some kids at your school that are getting those literacy needs met while other kids are not getting their needs met. But then you don't have two separate camps going on at the same time where some kids are doing literacy activities all day while other kids are getting to do the fun stuff all day. All the kids are doing fun things throughout the day, but then they're also getting the literacy instruction they need, or the math instruction. This would apply to math as well. You could do it with all three. So yes, you could, I'm not saying easily, but you definitely can braid your funds so that you can meet your literacy requirements, your math requirements, and your 21st century requirements all at the same time. Now that would be the easiest way to do it. If you don't want to do it that way, and you want to have times, you want to make it where you're just doing a camp for those, that's great, yay. But I'm just going to go ahead and say this. If you just want to have those literacy activities and you don't want to be doing something else on the side, then you could not count that literacy time where that's the only thing that's being done towards your 21st century hours, okay?
Can I ask you,
yeah.
The thought process would also be almost like if someone was doing a pull-out. Mm-hmm. So you know how you have a reading interventionist that comes in and pulls those babies that may be tier 3. Mm-hmm. But everybody's still doing literacy.
Yeah.
But that teacher that's that interventionist is being paid from the literacy acts funds, and the teacher that is continuing to teach literacy to those students that are, let's say, tier 1 and tier 2, mm-hmm. that are not identified in tier 3, but are being ran through the 21st century funds, then that means when I do my budget, I'm braiding using my literacy funds to pay for the reading interventionists, and I'm using my 21st century funds to pay for the students that are being served by the teacher that's teaching the 21st century stuff.
Exactly.
But the whole idea is that no student feels the difference.
Right.
There's 2 programs going on that the adults know about,
yep.
but the children do not know about.
Exactly.
Okay.
To me, that's the perfect way to do it. That way you don't have, great. If anybody else has any questions about that, we are working on trying to give you guys, come up with some example schedules to show you and to show you what's paid. On top of that, you might want to think about so you would pay that literacy teacher with those literacy funds, that tier 3 level literacy teacher with the literacy funds, and you could pay your regular 21st century, put your 21st century funds towards your regular teacher that's just doing the regular literacy activities. But then you've also got other costs, things like travel and other expenses related, because 21st century can be used to pay for transportation. and literacy funds can be used to pay for transportation, you could budget that how you need to, right? So if it comes that your 21st century funds are running short and you need to use, and you've got extra literacy funds remaining, and you've met all your requirements of your literacy grant and you need to fund some of your transportation with that literacy grant, you can do that because it's allowable, right? You could use either funds. You just want to make sure that you keep documentation of which funds you're using for which activities and that it's allowable, because a lot of those extra costs outside of the teachers you're hiring are allowable with either 21st century or those literacy funds or the math funds. And so you can use them how you need to get your needs met for all those kids. So just throwing that out there as well.
And I think they like what we just
Yeah.
talked about.
That's good. That's great. Great questions.
Yeah.
Okay. While we're waiting on the next question, I'm going to see if there's anything else here.
Yes, it's being recorded now.
Yes. Okay. Okay, this question came up. It was another good question. How do we secure a contract now when we don't have secured grant funding until our application is approved? Do we write the contract and not have it board approved until funding is received? Okay, so this again is from an LEA. And so some LEAs have to get any contracts they write, well, I guess probably all of them do, board approved. And so I get the reasoning behind that question. And so this was my advice. I would suggest adding, and I can put this, we are going to work on putting all of this into like a Q&A document that you can access. But I'm just going to read it to you for now, and then we'll make sure that we get this in the Q&A document. But I would suggest adding some wording such as this, and that you can tweak this. You can get your lawyers at your school district to, word it the way it needs to be worded for your school district. But you could put something like this in there. You could say, this agreement is subject to termination if the 21st century grant is not awarded or in the event of proration or reduction of the funds from which payment under this agreement is to be made. And in addition to that, you could put all partners, contractors, etc. understand that this contract is not effective until it has received all requisite local and state government approvals, and parties shall not begin performing work under this contract until notified to do so by the 21st century subgrantee. Okay, so putting wording like that into your contract just lets both parties know that that the contract is not in effect if the 21st century program is not granted, or if for some reason the funds have to be cut from one year to the next. And then also no work is to begin until it's been approved both by the local board and by the state. Okay, so this question has come up. Similarly, how do we provide a program director's resume when we can't hire until or unless we are funded? Again, you should be able to at least reach out and figure out who your program director is going to be, and provide their resume. We're just asking for that person's resume. We're not asking for you to, submit their contract or anything like that from the LEA. We just want to see who it is that you're looking at to be your program director.
Okay, and what do you think, Amanda, based on the information you just gave about the contract? You may want to have that same kind of conversation with your potential person that you want to hire, that you want to use a resume for, just letting them know that it's not official until the funds have been, you've actually been awarded the grant.
Yeah.
So.
And I think that's a great idea. Mm-hmm. And the reason why this is in here, I did get this idea from another state, just to be honest with you, but I thought it was a really good one because that project director really is fundamental in making sure a program runs well. And sometimes we've seen people be put into that position that had absolutely no preparation for what they were taking on. They have never worked with any kind of after school program before. They have no idea how to do the budgeting and all of that, that is, the data reporting and all of that. You really need to try to find someone. And I get it. I get that it's hard to find good employees, but this position in particular is one that you really need to try to find someone who has at least some sort of experience with running a school, running some sort of education program, preferably an after school program. Preferably they've maybe had some experience with 21st Century or some sort of summer or after school camp in the past. That's why we want to see their resume. And not to say that this is something that if they don't have good experience, I'm not going to say that this would be the one thing to keep you from getting your grant. You know what I mean? If that's the best person you can find at that time, then that if you've written a really good grant and we can tell that you put forth the effort and you've done everything else we've asked you to do, and that's just a person who maybe doesn't have as much experience as you want, but it's obvious they're willing to learn. You can tell that they're a lifelong learner. They're not just some random person that you found to fill the position. Then that's not going to hinder you from getting the grant. It's just something that we want to see. All right. Okay, another question that came up via email this week is, what is the average pay per site for an external evaluator, and what time commitment is required? So I'll be honest, most sites do pay the full 3% of the total grant per site. I would say it depends on the size of your program. That could become quite a substantial amount of money especially if you have a big program and you're closer to that $500,000 mark than the $200,000 typical program mark. You do not have to pay them the full 3%. Okay. So really, really think about the amount of money that is fair to pay that person. Now, they are expected to attend a couple of required state trainings. They have to visit the site several times throughout the year to make observations. They are supposed to work with you on this multi-year, I got to remember what it's called, this multi-year, multi-year program design and performance form. They're going to help you tweak it from year to year. And then they're going to do a mid-year program report, and then they do your final report at the end of the year. It does have some time built into it. It could be a lot of work, but you want to think about giving them the amount of money that is justifiable. Now, I'm just going to go ahead and throw this out there. We are thinking about kind of creating sort of a rubric or a pay scale or something like that to kind of help you determine how much you should pay an external evaluator. Of course, since the RFA says that you can pay them up to 3%, that is going to be the rule. But we are going to work towards some guidance sometime in the future to kind of help you figure out what is the best amount to pay those people. It'll be guidance for now. In future cohorts, it could be a change from the 3% to this new guidance. So it may be that we just kind of try it out with you guys and then change it in a future RFA. But just think about the time involved and what really is fair to pay that person. Also think about the workload that external evaluator has on them. I would ask to see external evaluations they've done for other sites. Some are better than others. I would reach out to TPI, Erica Rucker, and her team and see if they have anybody they recommend. Or you hire anyone to make sure it's not somebody that's kind of on our I'm gonna say blacklist, but it's not technical, but we do have kind of a no hire list. There are some people that we have just not seen good performance from, and we would not recommend you to hire. So I recommend you check with them about that. So yeah, it's just kind of one of those, you want to make sure that you pick someone that's going to do a good job for you. So I would definitely ask to see what they've done before in the past before you hire them. And then another key thing is when you do the MOA, and I think I've mentioned this in previous office hours, but when you do an MOA for anybody that you're contracting with, don't pay them one big lump sum at the beginning of the contract. You need to space it out. You need to make them do something and then you pay them. So if it was me, I would split, especially for like an external evaluator, I would split it into 3 payments. Once they've done their stuff at the beginning of the year, they get their first payment. Then once they've done their mid-year report, they get their second payment. Then once they've done their final evaluation, they get their third payment. Because we have had the situation in the past where an MOU was done, they paid the external evaluator the full contract amount and then never heard from that person again. Never got their final report, and that put them in a bad situation for later. So just make sure that that you hire someone wisely. Okay, so do I have a one pager for Q&As? Not yet, but it is in the works. We are going to work on that. This week, and we'll get it put up on the webpage and have it sent out in the email. It's just going to be kind of as people send questions or ask questions, we will type them up and put it into kind of a document that's just constantly can be added to that you can access and look at anytime. So we just haven't had a chance to do it yet. There's so many things we want to do, and so little time to do them yet. So, but yes, that is one of our top goals to get done in the next week or so, is to get that up and running for you guys. I was really hoping to have it done by today, but it just hasn't worked out. It's been a busy week. Okay, let's see if I had any other questions. Let's see. Okay, this was a good, let me do this one first. Okay. If the applicant has a name change after the award, what are the steps to mitigate this? So are you meaning the site name has changed? Please provide a little more information.
So the applicant is AG Gaston Boys and Girls Club. Right now, they are going through a transition where they may be combining the organization, and the whole organization may.
Dr. Brown, if you're talking, I can't hear you.
Let me unmute.
Oh wait, let's see. Well, she's not muted.
Yeah, can you hear me? Can you hear me?
I hear her.
I hear
Amanda,
you
it's
too.
just that I think y'all can't hear her.
Is your volume muted? Your speaker muted?
Oh yeah, because it's gonna
Oh yeah.
it's gonna. But you should hear it.
I should be able to hear it.
Can you hear me now?
Okay, everybody else can hear. Okay, hold on. We're figuring it out. Let's see. Okay, try again.
Testing 1 2.
Yes, now I can hear you. So,
Okay, so the applicant is the AG Gaston Boys and Girls Club. However, the Boys and Girls Club is going under a reorganization, and the name may possibly change. So if the name changes, because now there will be several clubs that will be combined into one, what would you like for us to do to mitigate that? As long as the Boys and Girls Club is in the name and we provide a rationale, is that okay? We could provide a narrative of whatever in terms of what is happening.
oh yeah, we can tackle that later on. What we would like to see in the name is really this. To me, the name really needs to reflect more on the site than the Boys and Girls Club, in my opinion. So, or the school site you plan to serve if possible. But I mean, that doesn't work out for everybody. You can make it whatever name you need it to be. But yes, if you need to change that name later on, then we'll work with, if you can come up with a name that you wouldn't necessarily have to change, as long as it says 21st century program in there. It could be either the acronym or the spelled out, 21st century community learning center. As long as that's in there, then that's fine as far as the application goes. And then if you guys need to change it later on down the line, then we can work with, I guess accounting would be the main people that we would need to let know that the name of it had changed. And we can figure that out.
Sounds good. Thank you.
No problem. Okay. Oop. All right. So I found another question that was good. Okay. So this question was, for the potential $20,000 in transportation awards for the rural sites, can those funds also be used for field trips? Also, will we have to budget all of those funds for transportation if they're not needed? Okay, so my answer to that was that a center should only request the transportation supplement, whether they're urban or rural, if they plan to provide daily transportation either from their after school program to the home or to and from their summer program, during the summer. Once the grant is awarded, we're not going to necessarily require that full supplemental amount be spent only on transportation if the full amount is not needed to provide that transportation. So as long as you're doing what you said you were going to do, you are taking those kids home from your after school program every day. You are providing, if you're doing summer, you are providing transportation to and from the summer program. If you don't need the whole $20,000 or $10,000, depending whether you're urban or rural, if you don't need the entire amount for transportation, you don't have to spend the entire amount on transportation as long as you are meeting that requirement. But if we see, if we see that you're not meeting that requirement, if you said you were going to provide transportation and then something happens and you don't provide it, then in future grants, like in your continuation grant, that those funds are subject to being removed from future years if we see that you're no longer providing the transportation you said you were going to provide. And then as far as field trips go, the cost of the gas mileage, the bus driver, renting a charter bus, anything that has to do with the actual transportation can be covered with your transportation funds. But like field trip, like the cost of kids getting into a venue, ticket costs or something like that, that would not be part of those transportation funds. It would only cover the actual transportation portion of the field trip. But yes, that also does go towards your transportation funds. Okay. I think that was the last of my questions from the week that I can think of right now. Anybody have any other questions?
Providing acts, well, I guess you're going to do this because you're sending the recording, just asking about the chat. Sometimes you're able to download the chat questions because some of these questions are great. Are you providing as well?
Usually when it sends the recording to me, it does include in there the chat conversation. I'm not sure if Erica normally sends that out, but we can ask her to. But it's only going to give you the questions, not the answers. And so the recording is definitely going to be better. But we will definitely try to make sure we include those in the Q&A document when we create it. But yeah, we could try to get her to send those out as well. The link I think it's like a separate link, if I remember correctly. But the recording should also show it to you in the recording. But if you're just wanting like a transcript of the questions, I think that's in like a little separate link that it's in that WebEx sends to us. I think. I know one of the online programs does that. I can't remember if it's WebEx or not. But I think it does.
I can post the link that you send into the YouTube subject line to see if
Oh,
that
okay.
will help, because I think then it does show the chat on the side. I just know
Okay.
that those normally expire, so that's why I'm not just sending that directly. But I can go back and do that. That's easy.
Gotcha. Okay. And then we'll try to take those questions and the answers to them and put them into the Q&A document as well. Okay, so I know we said we would go till 4 today, but we do have some other obligations that we're supposed to be at right now. So if there's no further questions, then we may cut it today a little early. So I'm gonna give you another few minutes just to think of any other questions that you might have. And just to let you know, we don't meet again until after the new year, I think. Let me go back and find that date. Sorry if I'm making all of you dizzy by scrolling. Nope, that's not it. Oh, here it is. Okay. The next scheduled meeting is January the 9th from 3:30 to 4:30. And it will be at the same location, this WebEx location. But again, please feel free to email the 21st Century email box if you, and I'll show you that right now. Go up to that. That would be, that would be this address here at the bottom, the 21st CCLC grant at alsde.edu. If you come up with any questions, and we will try to get those answered to you in writing as soon as we're able to. But definitely feel free to ask questions if anything comes up between now and January the 9th. Yeah, and so if you're not reading the chat, Erica says she's going to send that recording out on Friday. She sends out 2 emails for us. So we have our RFA listserv. She also sends out weekly updates to our current 21st Century subgrantees, and so she'll send it out in both of those emails on Friday. Any other questions before we stop? All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us.